Hey everybody, Jared back again, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the HTC One's gaming performance. Now, keep in mind that this is running a Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 CPU, clocked in at 1.7 GHz, an Adreno 320 GPU, and 2 GB of RAM. With that said, we're also going to be running FPS Meter, which allows us to see our frames per second in real time. So we'll go ahead and start that service, and click start there we go. And you'll notice we've got the text size to big so you guys can see a little bit bigger, as well as average frames per second for the last minute. So that'll give us a good idea of the average frames per second as well. So go ahead and click home, and we're going to start this one off with Modern Combat 4. So I'll probably go ahead and cut the video and we can pop back in as soon as we get right into the game. Alrighty, so here we go. Just keep in mind that playing games from behind a camera as large as mine isn't exactly the easiest feat. So I'm going to do my best here, so don't laugh at me if I'm getting my butt whooped. So again, keep your eye focused on the top right-hand corner so you can see exactly how well we're doing. And you'll be able to also, or should be able to also see the average frames per second as well. So it's looking so far that we're getting an average 30 frames per second, which is pretty good. That's exactly what we want to see in action-packed games like this particular one. So still around a 31 to 30 frames per second. So that's pretty darn impressive, especially for a game like this. What we're going to do is go ahead and back out of this game and jump into our next game and test that one out as well. Because just because we're seeing 30 frames per second in this game doesn't mean we'll see it across all the games, at least the high-performance games for that matter. So let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Alright, so here we've got everybody's favorite zombie shooter, Dead Trigger. We'll go ahead and see how this holds up to the HTC One holds up to this game. So we're actually getting an average of about 43 frames per second, and that is really impressive. 47 frames per second on average. You can see it bouncing sometimes all the way up to 6 in the 60s, and that's pretty cool. I gotta tell you, the graphics do look absolutely fantastic on this 1080p display. You know, at the moment right now, this phone has the highest PPI on the market, so you should be getting some pretty good visuals. Anyways, so we've got our average there all the way up to 57 frames per second, so that's pretty darn impressive. Let's go ahead and move on to our next game. Right then, so we do want to get some multiplayer going on up in here, so let's go ahead and try out some Shadowgun, if I can find out where the heck I'm going here. Alright, I'm doing terrible. So average of 24 frames per second at the moment. So I'm sure that the graphics just aren't translating as well on camera as they are here in person. They look absolutely amazing on the screen, or on the display at least. So now we're up to 26 frames per second on average for Shadowgun Dead Zone. Multiplayer, mind you. Yeah, I got one. I'm sure he was already hurting a little bit first, though. Oh, okay. So 26 frames per second now. I think you guys get the idea, though. So 26 frames per second on average for Shadowgun Dead Zone multiplayer. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Alrighty, so we've got the first level of The Dark Knight Rises loaded up here. The reason why I picked this particular level is because it is outside, and generally speaking, even on computers as well as, well, not so much consoles because everything's kind of optimized for that sort of thing, but generally on computers and obviously as well as games here, big wide open sort of sandbox environments like this usually wreak havoc on systems and graphics processors. So as we're seeing here, we're getting an average of about 23 frames per second, so obviously, there is a bit of frame loss here. We'll go ahead and creep up and take this dude out. Go to sleep. And let's see what happens in a fighting sequence. Come on. There we go. So you guys are able to see that we're getting an average of, well, let's say under 30 frames per second. Highest we've seen so far on average is 25 frames per second. So we'll go ahead and stop this one and we'll move on to our final test. Alrighty, so everybody likes Riptide GP, so let's go ahead and see how well we can do here. So obviously right off the bat, 40 frames per second. Whoops. 47, 48 frames per second on average with this game. We're still going up, 50 frames per second. Mind you, this is a 2-3-year-old game? A 2-year-old game? So, you know, I mean, it's still pretty graphic intensive, resource demanding game, but I guess it's not as much as the other games. I don't know. It's still fun to play though, isn't it? 55 frames per second on average with the HTC One and Riptide GP. And I think we've pretty much made our point at this point in time. So pretty darn good frames all across the board with all the games. Some of the most graphically demanding games on the Play Store at the moment. I'm sure I've left out a couple, but you guys get the general idea. This is one impressive device. So anyways, we'll go ahead and end the video now. Hopefully you get this gave you guys a bit of an idea if any of you guys are gamers out there. You know, about what this device can handle, which is pretty much anything. I was a little bit disappointed to see that on Batman: The Dark Knight Rises that it wasn't able to achieve the full 30 frames per second. However, it still looked fantastic, and it's obviously still a very, very playable game on this particular device. Anyways, guys, that's it for now. Thank you again so much for watching, as always. And don't forget to subscribe or follow me on Twitter and Google Plus if you want to stay up to date on all of my videos. That's it. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.